So, Alicia, so great to spend the next half an hour just chatting with you and
So excited.
opening it up for questions from everyone.
Great.
And I'm not a big believer in long introductions because as we talk, people will know who you are. So I'm not going to give a long introduction. In fact, I'm going to ask you to tell me, how do you introduce yourself? Like, are you an illustrator? Are you a brand designer? Are you, cultural cultivator? Or are you, like uh, personal journal maker? Or, like,
I
how do
keep
you introduce yourself?
very simple. I'm also not a big fan of like talking too much about my simple introduction is I'm an illustrator and I draw for a living. That's it.
Yeah,
In case even illustrator sounds too much, I'm like I draw for a living. So that is
yeah,
the gist of what I do though. And
right.
that's how I introduce myself. That's the basis of my life, I feel. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the gist.
So, I mean, actually, this drawing for a living is a huge statement, right? In terms
Yes,
of not many people have the luxury to say that, to draw
absolutely. Yeah.
for a living. And that too, not a hand to mouth living, like a good
Yeah.
living. And so I think I would love to talk a little bit about how you built this because your background is so varied. I think you were born in Abu Dhabi to a Goan parents,
Yeah.
raised in the Middle East, studied in Melbourne. You studied
Yes.
communications in Melbourne and ended up in India. Like it's sort
Yes.
of like all kind. Like why did
All
you
over.
end up in India? Like why did you
Oh,
not go somewhere else? Like why didn't you
okay.
stay in Australia? Like what happened?
That was an option for sure. So the reason I feel like everything, I don't want to say the word fate, but there were just a bunch of decisions that led to it. So studied communication design, so it's not too far off from illustration.
Of
It's pretty
course, yeah.
much in the same vicinity. And technically graphic design, but I realized in college that I love drawing and I've always loved products. I love products since I was a child, and I never considered becoming an illustrator at all. In fact, I doubt I knew the word illustrator. I knew
Uh-huh.
cartoonist at best, but definitely not illustrator. But the reason I moved to India was because I started a brand, Chumbak, and actually
Right.
started when we were there with a couple of co-founders, and then I moved here for that. And my brother used to live in Bangalore as well, so it was not too far-fetched, though it did raise a lot of eyebrows because I came as a proper NRI, like, very gushy about the cows on the road and stuff. I still gush over the cows, but just it was a completely new experience, honestly.
Now you're gushy
Um,
about hamsters and dogs, so
oh my
that's
God,
it.
I love animals. So one of the things I wanted to be growing up for a very long time was a vet, but I'm not big on blood and injury. So that didn't work out. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Uh-huh.
that's the gist of how I started. So I started working on product and as an illustrator. Then I used to work as an illustrator in Melbourne as well, but more
Yeah.
as a freelancer on random projects. And then when
So
I
how
moved
did
here,
you meet your co-founders in Chumbak?
oh,
To
okay.
start
Long
Chumbak,
and
how did
short
that
of
start?
it. Oh, okay. The long and short of it was, but this was ages ago, and I left
Right.
Chumbak, I think, way
Correct.
over a decade. So that's another lifetime, I feel. But in
Correct.
short, I met them through, I think it was an introduction via someone. And that's it. And then we got in touch. I believe, uh, they got in touch later again, something like that. It was a while ago, so I can't really remember the true initial, but I know it was someone said someone was like, looking out and da, da, da. The gist,
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
gist.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Chumbak became a very iconic brand,
Yeah.
and you were one of I mean, you were the co-founder of it, and then you wanted to be on your own. I mean, you wanted to have your own voice, etc. So, why did you want to start on your own?
Oh no, I didn't want to start on my own. We split ways. That was
Yeah.
unfortunate, but that was fine because honestly, that's truly where my real journey as an illustrator began. And that's where
Yeah.
I started working as a freelancer. I thought I would never really get into product, which is such a joke now because that is, I mean, the essence of my being is I love product and I feel
Yes.
like I don't know how else to say it, but like how chefs taste food and just fall in love. For me, when I enter a store or a shop which has merchandise, my
Mhm.
eyes and brain light up and I cannot everything about it from how it's made to what's on it. It just blows my mind every time. It's so funny. But
Yeah.
I forgot
Yeah.
what I was talking about. I start
Right. No,
asking about
you
product.
love product. You love
Oh,
you came
right.
on your
Oh,
own.
so when I
Yeah.
started freelancing, I started posting illustrations online, and people started asking for merchandise. And I didn't think I was going to get back into it. But I
Yeah.
had my first a stall, like a showcase in one of those santes, which is like a flea market, and it did
Correct.
really well. And it just made sense to take out, like, just start doing that a little bit more. And now I'm giving the short version of it is that it came to a point where they both were overwhelming, as in like I was getting a lot of freelance work, but I was also getting a lot of orders, and I had to I couldn't do both, and that's when I also happened to meet my co-founder, and then he started taking on a bit more of the business part of it, as in
Yeah.
the business of the products, which is more the online store and stuff like that. And that's how
Correct.
now both the things sustain itself. I still freelance because that's like I love doing that. I love working with clients. And I also
Uh-huh.
have like the product line as well. That is
Yeah.
another game in itself. Like that's a completely different business. And if I talk about
Yeah.
that, that's another ball game.
Yeah.
But that's the gist of
Right.
how I work at this point.
Right. So, talking about your products, one of the things I still have them is your journals. They're
Yeah,
very, you do a lot of
yeah.
journal design, etc. I mean, are people actually journaling? I mean, tell me a little bit about journaling. And, I just feel like my son doesn't even know how to write, like it's just handwriting. I mean, like his whole next generation doesn't even know how to
Yeah,
hold a pen and move it around. So
completely
how
understand
are people buying journals?
that. You would be shocked. So honestly, this came from me like I've been using a journal for 100 years. And when I say journal,
Yes.
I mean a scheduler. Like
See, I
I
like
have
all my
one.
questions
Oh
are
yeah,
written in this
literally
book,
me too. Okay, so I have this is my planner by the way. So
Yeah.
I've been doing it way before, just because I schedule everything. It's just how I keep track of everything. And
Yeah.
then what happened was my partner said we should launch one, and I said I will, and I finally did, and it did really well. And this was wow. I think it's 10 years now. I can't even. Yes, I think last year was 10 years of us doing this planner, and
Right.
it did really well. And since then, it's just been um this community of people who use planners. Now I'm going to say I don't think everyone who buys a planner uses a planner.
Yeah.
I know a few people say I've been buying it every year for 5 years or whatever, and I've not opened one of them, which is crazy. But I
But
think
it's a
so.
collectible.
But it does go out of stock, so yeah, it would be. But that's why there's also because of that they also make it the same size. It has the same sort of running of what do you call it, like the box size and like certain things. Anyway, but people I think use planners to a point. Like there's some things where
Yeah.
people use a mix of it. Like I still use Excel sheets. I don't use the calendar online, but I use Excel sheets a lot, and I use notes and stuff like that. So I think people do a mix still, and that's for people, I guess. Actually, no, everybody still uses both, and they use it for different things. So some people use
That's true. That's
writing
true.
as like they use the planner for, say, writing what their day is like, or a gratitude journal for every day. So I think what people use it for are completely different. But
Right.
yeah, but in short, yes, people use it, and for me, that's really good, and I'm very grateful for
Yeah.
it as well.
Yeah. No, I use journals a lot, and like, like see, like I'm writing like all my questions to your
Yeah,
this thing.
I
And
love
every
it.
time I have meetings, I take note. I mean, I
Oh,
have
I
to,
love it.
it's like that's how I think, I don't even refer to
Absolutely.
them later. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Same. I think it will
yeah,
change, but I feel like people will never really lose that I think that thing of writing, I
tactile.
think that yeah, it's exactly it's so tactile and it gives a different feel and hence affects your memory differently. As in if you remember
Correct.
they
Yeah.
usually say writing makes you remember things a little more. Also in
Yeah.
terms of how it feels, I call it yoga sometimes because when you write, you feel like you're doing a sort of mental yoga.
Yeah,
I use
it's
that
like
for
a
drawing as well.
meditation, like,
Absolutely, and that's why they say writing in a journal helps a lot more than say typing out a journal. As like I
yeah.
mean that also helps, but like a little bit more. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
personal. Yeah.
So there is so now let's talk a little bit about your the product, not product, but the other work, freelance work that you do.
Sure.
You've done a lot of different things,
Yeah.
especially the Dove campaign about redefining beauty and things. I mean, you've done a range of things, right?
Yeah.
So is there a certain type of a freelance work that appeals
That I
to you
love.
than the other?
Oh, yeah. I mean, okay. So I love working with clients. So honestly, I love things that I've not done before. So the Dove one was a great one where I've never done a campaign like that before. So I love campaigns more than these short bursts of. I mean, okay, when I say campaigns, I say bigger campaigns than just short marketing bursts. Because campaigns mean a lot more. So even the expectations for me, it's a lot more pressure, but it's a lot more. I feel like I can give more versus say something like, oh, we just want X number of they're doing something just because they need a reach or something like that, as opposed to a campaign where they want to make a voice heard or something known. I think those just mean so much more, and feel like I can put a lot more in. Otherwise, just like
Correct.
plainer advertising, if I'm not sure how else to say. And also product, of course, product is like my baby. I love it. So if someone has like a product they've not worked on before, that's
Yeah.
my favorite thing. But of course, that's very much more limited for brands.
Yeah. But what are some unique products that you worked on, or you would love? Is
Oh,
there a certain kind of product you would love to work on?
oh my, so many. Okay, so things that I enjoyed working on was so for Google, I did an elevator. Inside the elevator is that's not a product, but it was a different canvas of sorts. So inside the elevator, I got to do the drawings on it. So a mural of sorts, but
Oh
like
yeah,
printed, of course.
okay.
That was
Yeah.
fun. I love working on like physical products. I just got to do a vinyl art doll sort of thing, which
Oh,
was so fun. That was more collab, but I love doing it. So I'm hoping a company wants to do one more in some way because I just enjoyed it so much. And I think the physical output came out so, so well.
uh-huh.
Things I would love to work on is I've not worked on too many like FMCG kind of products. So I've done drawings for like these snack products ages ago, but never got to do it again. So like a chips packet would be like absolutely up my alley. Things like that. I think those would be fun. Things I've not done before, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so let me ask you a little bit about the things you do a lot is you put a lot of your personal information. I mean, I knew you when you're single, then you're married, you have a child and dog and hamster. Like everybody who reads your stuff just
Yeah.
knows everything about you. Like, how was the romance? How was the fight? How was this? How was the sleepless nights? Like we know everything about you. So is it like a bit of a voyeuristic thing of there's so many people in the world who know what you eat for breakfast, but you have no idea who they are? I mean, how
That
does
is a
that?
really, really good question. Okay, so pre Instagram and stuff like that, I've had a blog in college, and so I'm used to putting out not information, but just like a bit of myself just out
Right.
there. And I think that's honestly part of being an artist. Like no one paints in solitude. Like you paint and then you want to put it out for someone to see because I feel like that impact really makes a difference. Now, for me, if my language is cartoons, that's how I usually do. I'm kind of an open book anyway. I have the most honestly boring life. I go to bed early, I get up early. I have a very regular day. I don't have late nights and fun day. So for me, drawing about these things, even talking about it, is not really like out of the ordinary. There's really nothing to hide. And honestly, I don't think anyone thinks any differently. They are obviously because life is life, things that happen that we don't put up online, no one knows about. Like at this point, it seems like no one dies or like, hard times never come and like money is in abundance. Of course, that's not true. But I
Right.
don't feel like drawing about those things. So there's the one thing of me, I don't really like drawing sad things anyway. So, which is why I couldn't really even or wanted to get into, say, political cartoons or something like that. So, I think it's just a small part of my life which I show, which sometimes gets assumed that is my whole life, which is obviously not. I mean, I talk about chips and people believe that I eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And obviously that's not true. I mean, it's not possible, right? Um, so
Yeah.
I think it's just a small part, but it's fun because it's the most normal, like falling in love, like having a child. These are not abnormal things. It's like the most
Correct.
general things. But yeah,
Yeah.
and I guess that's why people relate because it's so normal. I don't.
Yeah.
There are two types. I feel like there's some people who have like these big lives who go jetpacking and and those are things people look up to. Mine's just a regular. So I think that's another thing you look at, not up to, but at.
I'd like to ask you about, it's amazing you're making a living out of being boring, being simple, talking about what you do. You just draw, you just do what you feel like, and you don't want to talk about the sad stuff. Sitting at home, you don't have to sit for 5 hour traffic to go anywhere. But it takes a lot of, faith in yourself and a little bit of guts to jump there. I mean, now
Yeah,
10 years later, after you started the journey, it seems, of
yeah,
course, she's successful. But
yeah,
when you started out in a country really that's not your native country, I mean, in the sense you didn't grow up
yeah.
here, and of course it's your native country. I mean, you are of Indian origin, but it's you don't know the ways, you don't know how
Yeah,
people work. When somebody says, "Yeah, I'll buy 10," they may mean one, they may mean 100. Like
yeah,
doing business in India
yeah.
is not easy,
Oh
you know.
my.
Yeah. So with all these, like what was it then that made you want to stay here and you could have easily gone back to Abu Dhabi or you could have gone
Yeah.
back to Australia. What made you stay in India?
Okay, that's a really good question. I think honestly there was, okay, I have to go back and say, so my parents never ever questioned the fact that, in fact, I kind of wish they did when I was, when I wanted to be a graphic designer, or that I didn't even know what that meant. I had to, at that time it was Ask Jeeves, it was not even Google. What is
Correct.
a graphic designer? And, and find out what that meant. And um, there was a loan taken for college and all these things. For me to say I was coming back to India was a big deal. And even to be a graphic designer was a big deal. But my parents never said no. And so the pressure gets doubled. It's not, I was like, I was a good student. Like they could have said, just take science, just become a doctor, do something that's
Right.
obviously going to be feasible, an
Yeah.
easier route, I guess. They never said that. So honestly, when I moved here and even when things fell through, I felt like there was a lot more pressure to make it work in just
By
because
yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
just so much pressure. I'm like, I made the decision to come back. I made the decision to take this field. If I don't make this work, so it was so much had to, and again, like that time I was just posting like my voice is happier, I guess, even when I draw. But obviously inside you're just like, I hope this works. I really, these are things I don't really draw about. I'm journal about it, I guess, but yeah, no, there was just pressure to make it work. There was no times where it wasn't scary. And I feel like that still happens till today. Any freelancer feels like that, and any business owner
Correct.
feels like that.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
one of the things is, I know this sounds great, like working from home, I get out of bed and come in pajamas, but there's not a single day that I've not gotten up at 5 o'clock in the morning to start work. It's just how life is. It's not a single day where I've gone on vacation and not kept an eye out of things to draw. That is part of the lifestyle, really, of being an artist, but also some of the pressures of using it as a career. It's not. It's
Mhm.
not only like, oh, I'll draw when I feel like. No, there's no drawing when you feel like. You have to draw. So difference again
Right.
between it being a hobby and being work. And now when you have a company, you need to make sure you're doing it not for you now, because you're supporting a full bunch of people who
Yeah.
are. This is their bread and butter as well. Now it's not only yours. And then you
Yeah.
do the things like grow up and take a loan. and,
Yeah.
and then there's those things. And then suddenly you have a child, and suddenly there's education, and then there's like his future, and then your retirement plans. Like there's so many more add-ons. And suddenly being an artist is not only drawing like happy. I mean, I always say I always crush people's happy dreams when I talk about being an illustrator, but
Right.
it's the realities of it. But having said that, it is the best job in the world. And if you keep at it and you go to bed so happy at night because you felt like I don't know, you've done your dues. I don't know. It
Yeah.
just feels
And
like
also,
that.
I think, I just want to draw the thing to it's not just that I'm an illustrator. You have to have the discipline also. I'm going to get up at 9.
Absolutely.
I'm going to sit. I'm going to
Oh,
do this. I've taken this project. It has to be, like it's just like anything else,
absolutely. Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
important to have that discipline. And I remember a lot of my author friends, they say that even though they work from home, there's a separate room, there's a separate space.
Oh,
They
oh
get
my
up in the
goodness.
morning, take a shower, get ready, and go there as
Yeah.
though they've
It's
been
a
work,
different sort of discipline completely. I think it's an extra discipline working from home as opposed to
Yeah.
working from an office. But for me, I've always felt like I work better at home because I've always worked from home. So now for me,
Yeah.
going to an office, I just see so much time wastage and it drives me up the wall because I can do like
Yeah.
10 things in a day, whereas at office, there's so many more like things. But also, my
Correct.
job doesn't entail a lot of people. Like I can do my job at my desk, at home. Not
Correct.
every
Yeah.
job demands that.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to take some questions from the
Sure.
audience. I have to put my glasses to read it. Let me ask you the last question as I look for questions from the audience.
Yeah.
One is, you know, what is the hand-drawn illustrator versus the AI generated image today?
Oh
I mean, are
wow.
you dabbling with AI? Have you like played with Midjourney and things like that? Or tell me what your feeling is about
Such a
that.
such a touchy topic. Okay.
Yeah, I
So
know.
I work so much with tech. Like I've been working. I mean, technically Photoshop is tech and I call Photoshop my third hand because I use it like on a daily basis. Now AI is part of Photoshop from like day's beginning. And I think now when people say AI, they truly mean two things. One is ChatGPT and one is Midjourney, like two things. But there's so many nuances of that gets stuck into like your Photoshop and like tools that you use. Now, coming to like the mid-journey type images, I feel like genuinely it is just another tool. It is like and I work with Adobe a lot, and Adobe has Firefly, which is an ethical version of AI generated images. And I've used
Mhm,
it for because I was working with it and playing with it. A lot of things that I've like found very useful is making
mhm.
mocks. Now, that works for me. I think people find different versions of what works for them. So I don't really have, I feel like it's in such beginning stages. So it's hard to draw very big conclusion. It's not going anywhere. Like everyone should just understand it's not going anywhere. It's already
Right.
such a big part of people's um like lives now. And what I'm getting more, the only thing, not worry, the only thing I'm finding curious rather is that it's becoming part of our everyday images. Like if I opened Swiggy the other day and I saw that the
Mhm.
main image was an AI generated image. And now people are used to seeing these kind of images there instead of
Yeah.
saying a person cutout or like a drawn cutout. And that's where I
Hmm.
feel like it's going to be the norm. Is this good for us as artists? Because suddenly a style suddenly makes more sense, because suddenly there's this
Yeah.
very specific AI looking image, which we
Yeah.
all understand and stuff like that. But it was actually a funny image because they blew up the head. It was kind of funny. But I feel like you
Yeah.
can use AI in a way that works really well for you. And I think you can use AI models that are more ethical. Like I love Firefly for that because they're obviously a lot more ethical. And yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's my and I use like Gemini all the time. In fact, like I talk to them a lot. And I don't know, it's become part of I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was gonna catch on so quickly. But my God, any question thought that I have in my head goes straight in. It's amazing.
And it's amazing. Like it's like you're talking to a person, you know, like at
Oh
some point
man,
it's like
like
you just
just
talk. I was listening to a friend of mine the other day who was doing he just says that he was saying something like that, you know, like don't be so idiotic in the answer you're giving. Think a little bit more. I said, are you talking to your AI? And he's like, yeah, I'm talking to it. So it's like, you know, he says,
oh
I
my God,
can
okay, I'm not
scold
saying
it,
that.
I can scold it as well, and it gets it, you know. So I was like, wow, this is
You know what's
quite the
funny?
dream
That
come true.
I've heard you writing like please and these sweet like thank you is costing like the AI a lot of money like to run it. So I've
Yeah,
stopped doing that and I'm feeling personally weird because you're so used to talking to humans and you're like,
yeah,
okay, I have to delete this just to be nice. You're like, it's
yeah,
such a
right.
weird way of thinking about it because you're
But
so
what
used
a
to
great
humans.
thing to have a perfect friend who's willing to help you. You don't need to thank them. You don't need to
As
acknowledge them. It's like don't
I
need to
just
be
should
nice to them.
not seep into real conversations with
I
humans.
know
That's going to be the hard
exactly.
part. Yeah.
So, you know, someone asked if you could, do you have something you're drawing right now there? Is there something you really like there that you want to
That
show
I
your work?
like. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
telling you what I'm working on now. I'm working on, so this is when actually from the beginning of the year to now is when I work on the planner calendar kind of thing, which is the ones
yeah,
for the end of the year.
right.
So that's what I'm working on. I'm making a template for, oh, you can't see. I don't think you can. Wait.
Okay.
No, it's too bright.
Yeah,
Sorry, I don't know whether you're going to see it,
right.
but
Yeah,
basically for the planner calendar is what I'm working on, and there's
okay.
so many sketches I have here. So if I think of an idea, I draw a sketch and I'll say I'll finish it later. But there are literally hundreds of sketches here which I've never gotten to. Which
Yeah.
is I'm going to say a product of motherhood because I just don't have time now. I just don't have time. Like there's just too many things to do.
And there's a lot of comments here, people saying it's so proud to and happy to know somebody who can
No.
fulfill their own dream,
Mhm.
keeping up with all the responsibilities and all that. So it's really great.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And so one question was about, how do you manage your work and life? You're all day thinking of drawing and all that stuff. How do you
Yeah,
find time for yourself? I mean, how do you find
that is a
there a me
really
time,
good
or
question.
all the time when you're drawing, it's your me time?
That is it, it actually technically is my me time when I'm drawing, but I feel like a lot of I used to have, I tell you what did go though. Once I'm gonna only say once I came to motherhood because that's when things I did this, like I'm not done yet. It's a
Yeah.
shift. Um um One thing that I used to have before that I don't have now is playtime, which I used to call playtime, my artist playtime, where I get new paints and I get to try it. There have
Mhm.
been paints that I've had in my cupboard for about a year now, which I've not had time to try because it would take me a few days. And I don't have days in bulk where I can try something because if there's days, that means something's happening. That's the part which I miss the most and I don't get time for. A lot of me time, which I feel I need, is quiet time when my son's at school. So during holiday time, that is very disturbing for me. But
Yeah.
and that's when I can do anything. It can be work drawings or it can be drawings that I'm just doing for like online use or whatever it is. But that is for me my me time. The second me time is having a shower. That's first I get
Yeah.
and walking my dog. That's it, which is fine by me. I don't because I feel like my work is my me time. It's fine that they coincide. But the
Yeah.
experimental playtime is the one thing I kind of really wish. I'm trying to get back in, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's really hard. It really is.
And someone was asking, I mean, have you ever worked a corporate 9 to 5 job? I don't think you have.
I've not. I've worked in a bank, which people find very shocking, and it's even more shocking that I absolutely loved it. So
Uh-huh.
I worked in a bank when I was in Melbourne because I was part time as a freelancer. I mean, a part time illustrator, and also contract at the job at the bank to pay my bills and rent and all that stuff. So when I was there, that was one of
Uh-huh.
the times I actually considered staying on in the bank because I found it relatively easy to catch on with the whole processes of how the bank works and stuff like that. And that was my 9 to 5 because there's some days I literally work 9 to 5, and but not like 9 to 5 is like 5 days a week.
Yeah.
That was not there. There was like a day
Okay.
off in the middle. That was the best. Like that was amazing.
That's great. You can
Yeah,
do both. You
yeah,
enjoy
yeah, yeah.
that.
Absolutely. Technically,
Yeah.
this is my 9 to 9.
Someone, Kushi is asking, how do we get in touch with you to collaborate?
Oh, mail. Please mail me for everything. I don't check Instagram messages almost entirely, which is always getting me in trouble, but there's just no way.
Yeah.
Mail all the time. It's very easy email address. So even on my Instagram, there's a mail and that goes to my team and then they forward it to me. Otherwise, it's alicia.souza@gmail.com. Very easy. Yeah.
That was very fast, so maybe you can say it a little
Oh,
slow.
Alicia. Okay. Alicia.souza@gmail.com.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
How do you keep yourself motivated and keep your creative hat on? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's a great one. Okay, I will
Yeah.
tell you the hack. Okay, so when I was starting, like now there's no time, but now I have a process in place. And I'll tell you the process. Every time I'm doing something and I have an idea, I obviously cannot work on that idea immediately. I used to use a notebook, then became and now it's my phone. I have a list of things. There are different sections. So one is drawing, one is writing, and one is craft. So every time I have an idea, it falls into one of these buckets, and I write the thing quickly out because I don't even have time to draw. Like sometimes I'll be on the road and I'll be like, someone said something funny, or I thought of something funny, and I'll write it in this notes. And so when I come to my computer and suddenly I'm like, okay, now I have to draw, and I have, it's my scheduled drawing time. I refer to these notes. I don't actually use a blank canvas. I actually have a list of things. So it's like a brief to myself. And that's how you always have something at hand to work on. And if you don't, say you're starting from scratch, and this is the first time you're doing it, you look at inspiration. So you look at pictures, like Pinterest is a really good one. Pictures really inspire artists. I know that. You go
Mhm.
for a walk that inspires a lot more other people. That's not me as much, but
Yeah.
and thirdly, you can do actually writing things like mind mapping. Mind mapping really helps you come up with creative ways to come up with like say a scenario and come up with ideas for like say you're coming up with a scene. What is in a scene? What's in a picnic? And you draw out like 100 things, and then suddenly you have like this big chunk, not junk, chunk of ideas or things you can draw, and then you start with that. Yeah, that's it. That's it. And if you just need to get the ball rolling, just copy whatever's in front of you. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an important question, especially for very creative things, like it's sort of, if
Yes.
it's just somehow have to count the number of things on the table, you can do it whether you're
Yeah.
thinking or not. But when you have to come up with something interesting or funny,
Yeah.
but also that speaks to you, it's not just,
Yeah.
it does require you going into yourself. And
Yeah.
I mean, like, do you get tired? Do you get like, sort of, oh, I've had it for the day? Or because
Oh,
you are working
so much.
I mean, you do have to put in that 8, 9 hours of work
Yeah. Yeah.
in a day, right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah. There
yeah.
are some parts of the process, sorry,
And
some
no,
parts
go
of the
ahead.
process that tire me out more than others. Like for me, drawing does not tire me out, or coming up with ideas doesn't tire me out. But for me, what really tires me out is coloring. Like that is
Yeah.
such a draining part of the process for me. And I've tried to get help. I sometimes try to get help with some of the parts of it, but like for main, it just really wears me out. So that takes time for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it's for me. Yeah, and then after a point I'm like, I cannot do this anymore, and I'll schedule for the next day. But for me, that's why scheduling is really important, because then I can keep track of like how much I have to do in a day and stuff like that.
Yeah. 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 No, I think
Mm.
it's good to know that even for you, there is something boring. So
Oh yeah, oh my.
otherwise
Don't
it seems
worry, I
like
still have
she's
to
having
do
fun
my
all the
accounts.
time.
Yeah, what I still have to do my accounts monthly, which is by the way due tomorrow. So all these things are still part of the ball game. Also
Yeah.
coming up with logistics for like say the next year and stuff like that. There are a lot of boring parts, don't worry. But like I
Yeah.
said, it seems all it's very Instagrammable on the outside, but of course there's so many more cogs behind closed doors, of course.
Have you created a team around you, Alicia, that can take away the things you don't want to do? Like, for example, if you're doing
Hmm.
a brand campaign, say there's a lot you need to talk to the
Yeah,
company to see what do you need, how much are you paying, there's negotiations,
yeah,
contracts and all that kinds of stuff. And also your own schedule, like where you need to
yeah,
be when or whatever.
yeah.
So do you have an ecosystem around you that you say, hey, this piece, boss, you do it? Did you do that around you so you can stay focused on being creative?
This is a really good question, and I'll tell you how I've structured my life around this. So my whole company is run by sort of pretty much the logistics completely, and I'm still part of the marketing part where I have to, especially during peak season time where I have to check my mails and stuff like that. Now, one of the things when I started, I mean, things get overwhelming, like a lot of requests come in, is a lot of people told me now is when you have to build an agency because you're getting enough work, you can hire more people. And this is the one thing I didn't do, and I'm very grateful for it because I think when I became an illustrator, one of the things I promised myself is that I will not become part of a company. Because if I want to be part of a company, I'll join a company. I want to run a company. I want to
Yeah.
run. I mean, I do want to run a company, but someone else. But
Yeah.
I want to do what I love doing, which is specifically drawing. And that's what
Yeah.
brings me joy. Honestly, it's not worth it if not. I don't want to hire other illustrators and then tell them what to do and be an art director. I don't want to do that. I want to be doing solely drawing. So when I don't take up work that doesn't involve that. So if someone says they want to do branding, I'm like, I only do illustration. So I can direct you to people who do the branding part. I'll work with the branding team because I understand the whole nuance of design. So that's one thing I've not done. The only help I take is obviously after I do my accounts, I have a CA who runs the accounts and takes care of like the filing and stuff like that you have to have obviously, things like that. But everything else is me. And then of course, like I said, the company stuff is completely separate. But talking to the clients and negotiating and talking about money, these are things that are part of my everyday now. So it's not really. I think when I started, there weren't people who did it. There were no agencies. There were no people who would take on illustrate. I still don't know if there's an illustrator agency.
Right.
But like say influencing agency, there was nothing of that sort, and I'm so glad there wasn't because now I understand the nuances of how to be able to talk about this. What is what is worth and what is like worth my time and stuff like that. I think it becomes and I make the decisions at the end of the day. I think for them also they make the decisions, but like it just worked out really well. So yeah, in short, like I do everything, but also that's how I also am able to structure my time perfectly. That works with me.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a one-person agency.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
actually.
no, that's really great. No, I really want to, summarize the thing of your how many different lives you've had in the
Yeah.
past in terms of where you grew up. One thing I do want to talk about the past is that you grew up in Abu Dhabi,
Yeah.
and how was it like? There's people from at least 100 different countries in
Yeah.
Abu Dhabi, right? It's like a very melting pot of people from
Yeah.
all over the world. So, did you feel like you were a local? Did you feel like you were an outsider? Did you feel
That's a
like,
really good
oh,
question.
everybody was an outsider? I mean, like, tell me a little bit about how you grew up, because a lot of what you are is a
Yeah.
product of at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so good. Okay, so Abu Dhabi was always home, right? So because born there, I didn't know any differently. But when I say I felt like it was my place, I genuinely felt like, not that I was Arab, but I was so patriotic, like so patriotic that I had a poster of the Sheikh Zayed on
yeah,
my wall. I just thought he was like the bee's knees, and I loved him without
yeah,
knowledge of any. I mean, of course, we did UAE social science and stuff like that.
yeah,
So I did feel like that was my place, and there were a lot of people, but that's why you feel like you're part of the community. There are a lot of Indians as well.
yeah,
We had I went to an Indian school, so and because I'm going, like we had like a community, which is the case with Goans anyway.
yeah,
And it's so funny because now, because I'm so removed from Abu Dhabi, and it's been like what, so many years, or 20 years since I mean I've lived there. It feels, sometimes I feel like I'm part, because of course now this is home, but it doesn't feel home like I have prior memory to being an adult home. So it always feels like I'm part of nowhere and also part of everywhere. Like anywhere I go
yeah,
can be home now. But like,
yeah,
yeah, but when I went back to Abu Dhabi, I don't feel like that's home now. It just feels
yeah,
like, oh, it brings back memories. And that's anywhere I go.
correct.
Like even Melbourne was such a big part. Like I was there for 5 years,
Yeah,
and it was a very cool part because you're at that just growing up age. So when I was there, that felt so home. Like I could see myself living there. In fact, I did. I thought I was going to stay there forever. And
mm,
so that felt like home when I was there, and it felt so local. Like I had like a
right.
student friends, and I had like a little Triangle accent then also, but which went away subtly when I moved here.
Yeah,
But that also felt like home. I think it's just whatever, yeah, whatever brings you. But I still have like
yeah,
a chunk of my heart in all these places. Yeah,
yeah. I think you've created a home in what you put out there. So no
yeah,
matter where you are, I think your home is what you put out there, because it is
yeah.
you that's out there. So
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think
And
that's where
also,
you're omnipresent,
yeah,
kind of.
I'm also going to throw in that I'm very hermity. So the fact is that I'm indoors most of the time anyway. So it's like wherever I'm
Yeah.
flexible. Joking.
Yeah. I'll ask the last question from
So,
Kamil Varma here. They said illustrator who works at a consulting company and met you a couple of months back in Indranagar and showed you the illustrations, etc. But it's an interesting question. It's sort of, I feel the need, it says, I feel the need to get back to more creative work, but by the time you finish work and come home, you feel
I
tired,
get this so
so no
much.
energy after that. So how do I crack it? That's a question.
Okay, that
So,
is such a good question. And honestly, it's on the same lines of me having this whole dilemma with not having like my playtime. And the only way, so you're not going to get it done in the week. It's just not going to happen. Weeks are so busy. You have to crack it on the weekend. And so Anu, my friend, she's also an ink fellow. Anu,
yeah.
she and I used to have this thing. She moved out of town a month ago. So now it's down the drain
And we
again.
when we can
But
take credit for you being ink fellows, being roommates, for becoming
yes,
friends, or other way around.
absolutely.
Other,
She changed. I genuinely, she's like a core part of my life. And I met her
yeah,
at we met at the airport and became
yeah,
best friends, like at the airport, like just became best friends
correct,
instantly. So
correct, yeah,
she and I didn't, she had a second kid. We've not met each other for months. And she's like, listen, we'll do this thing. She used to do it with herself. And she's like, we'll do this together now, which is every Saturday morning, regardless of what's happening. You just have to say that I'm going to come out for 2 hours, and we meet at a coffee shop, and we sit there and we do personal times. But this was actually the time we chatted also. And then we go, like we sit and we do our own thing. Um, I think that's the only way to carve out time, is where you just like, you cannot schedule anything at that time. And that worked really well until she left. And then now I find it much harder to say, you know what, maybe today I'll just stay at home, want to take my son out. It becomes, she was my anchor for that thing. But I think for anyone else, I would say just being able to schedule, and if it means leaving the house to do it, just do it. But scheduling nothing else at that time and making it a habit. So it's going to take a little bit more time for doing it once a week, but just scheduling as a habit. Once it becomes a habit, then it's done. So I've
Yeah.
not been able to build a habit just yet. It's a lot of mother's guilt, which is what comes in the way.
Yeah.
But that's generally how it would be done, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to wrap up by saying that, at least I found while we all feel I can do everything I want together at all times,
Oh
it's
yeah,
not possible. You just have
absolutely
to
not
pick
possible.
something. I mean, if you choose to be in a like banker or a whatever profession and it's good, you're having a great time, then the other thing is a hobby. You just say, okay,
Absolutely,
I'm going to
absolutely. It's
set
a give
aside
and
two
take.
hours every
Yeah,
week and do it. And that's it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you just have to do that. But
Absolutely.
it's difficult to do both. And I think if you want the career, and sometimes I feel that if you really like something creative, making that a profession is also a double-edged sword. Then,
At 100%, 100%.
yeah,
It doesn't, I feel like
yeah,
to have that, to fulfill that creative itch, you don't need to do it as a career. In fact, it's a complete different ball game, because then you're dealing with
correct.
clients,
Yeah,
there's
to
a lot
make that
more
a business is
nuances.
a very different ballgame.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
just even if it means scheduling coloring time in the night, every night is amazing. And
mhm,
that really, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, Dr. Karishma asking 2 hours daily or weekly. If you start with 2 hours weekly and be disciplined about it, that'll be great.
Yeah, because 2 hours daily is not happening. It's
It's
easy to let
not
go.
gonna
Yeah,
happen.
it's just
Yeah,
too much.
yeah,
Like that's a lot of sacrifice. You can do 2 hours weekly is easier to schedule in, and then you can do 2 times 2 hours weekly. Whatever works
yeah,
for you. I think it's very different, because maybe 2 hours is too
correct.
much. I feel like for me, I would need maybe an hour and a half at best, because I get ants in my pants very quickly, so I can't do an activity for longer than 1.5 hours.
Yeah,
So whatever works for you. If you need a longer time to like decompress and
yeah,
then start something, uh, I think this is a personal figuring out sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah. So thanks. I just want to wrap up by saying, Alicia, you really came into this world with so much different experience, and I'm so glad you came to
Thank you
India
so much.
and you're there and you're bringing so much joy to so many people.
Thank you.
And I've known you for almost a decade now, and it's been
Yeah.
wonderful to see you become iconic almost, and more power to you for standing up to what you believe in. And I just want to wrap up by saying that everything doesn't have to be big business. It doesn't, just because you're doing successfully doesn't mean you have to now build an agency with 10 branches or something like that.
Yeah.
To stick to your core and say, this is all I want to do is
Yeah.
beautiful. So thank you for showing that, and
Thank
thanks for your
you.
time.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks everyone for
Okay.
showing up as well.